The hardest part about short form video is actually not that hard. I get it. You've worked hard to build a product. You worked hard to put the team together. You've worked hard to raise capital. And now trying to tell your story over short form video, it can be exhausting. And today we're talking about the recipe you'll use to make great videos and tell your story in a way that actually sells. How you show up can feel like the hardest part of telling your story with short form video. But when you have a plan, this will actually be easy for you to execute. The founders that I've worked with are always looking for that 10x skill or that 10x employee. The coder who can take things to the next level, the business person who can go out and create revenue. Planning is a 10x skill when it comes to making great short form videos. We're getting into it today. And this video has taken me over a year to make. I'm on a personal journey to help founders tell their story over short form video. But for the last 8 years, I've been working on ways to tell my own story with video. In this video, I'm gonna show you the process that I've seen work for clients and I've used for my own videos. You're gonna learn about a planning method. You're gonna learn about making great intros. I'm gonna give you everything that I think will be helpful for you as you start your content journey with short form video. And if you make it to the end, I'll share with you my best advice. If you're not yet happy with the way you've been telling your story on video, it might be because you don't have a story. When I started out 8 years ago, I was building a video content library of sales advice for SaaS founders. I ran into 3 really big challenges with my videos. The first challenge was finding my voice. Hearing myself over and over again, looking at certain shots of myself didn't feel great. In fact, I told one friend that a shot I didn't like because of the angle of my body type. His response was, dude, relax. That's what you look like. And that one simple thought, it stuck with me. If you were in the room with me, this is what I look like. This is how we show up. And that has let me just relax and be myself more on video, which in turn has let me be okay hearing my own voice or seeing my own picture. The second thing that I really struggled with was around editing. I was trying to do really fancy shoots. I brought a big heavy camera with me everywhere I went and every talk I did. But I found the best shots were actually when I had a really low tech equipment. I just would set up an iPhone and I would capture the shot. Those were actually the best videos I ever had because they required the least amount of editing. The third thing for most people would be content, but that really wasn't a challenge for me. I started my career as a teacher. Later, I've been doing corporate training for almost 20 years. Planning content has never been a challenge. That let me off the hook. But the biggest challenge I had was around distribution. So I took it on to build a content library that I thought would be the most helpful things, the stuff that founders that I knew personally would want to hear. And I just tried to build the best content possible. And I figured distribution would take care of itself. Occasionally I would send something out on LinkedIn. Occasionally I'd point to it in one of my talks. I'd invite people to go check out videos that I had on my website or on my blog or on YouTube. And I found that people started to find the videos, but I never thought it would be an overnight success until one day I was about 6,000 miles away from home. I had just given a talk in Montevideo, Uruguay, and I bumped into somebody who was running an accelerator. When I introduced myself, he said, no, I know exactly who you are. I've seen all of your videos and I require my companies to watch for your sales advice. I was blown away. That was exactly what I needed to hear. Someone out there, the right people are going to find your videos if you make the right content. Let's go back to talking about your story. You've just seen my story in 3 parts. It's what Pipdex calls the 3 great conflicts. Pipdex is a resource for storytelling. It's a box of cards like these that have a bunch of resources to help get you going. The 3 great conflicts, just simply what's stopping you, what barriers must you overcome. I told you my story in past tense about the barriers I've overcome with telling my story using video. Hopefully that's a good, kind of helpful example that you can use to think about what story you're going to tell. Making the type of videos that people want to watch and then later talk about, it requires a type of intro that's going to get people hooked and keep them watching. Having the type of intro that really hooks people is a process that I learned from April Lynn Alter. April Lynn built out her framework and shared it with all of us a few months ago on YouTube. And it has been one that actually I used for planning this video that you're watching now. It starts with a great title and thumbnail. Having a great title and thumbnail is your first promise to the viewer. And if you can make that promise and then exceed those expectations along the way, you're going to have them hooked. And that's exactly what April Lynn teaches in her system. In fact, I liked it so much, I printed it out and I carry it around in my bag because it helps me plan videos just like the one you're watching. The second thing you want to do is really plan out the first 5 seconds. The first 5 seconds of your video is going to determine what that initial content offering is. And you're going to want to make sure that even the first sentence of your video is matching what you've said in the title and thumbnail. The rest of the introduction is planned out the way I've done here. You want to build curiosity and also set down the context. A curiosity gap is asking the type of question that then somebody will want to go and see answered. You'll also want to consider leveraging input bias. The idea that this video is really expensive to make. That's something that I've seen Mr. Beast do on his videos a ton. This is the most expensive video we've ever done. This is the most cash we're giving away. This is the biggest thing we're doing. You'll find in a lot of entertainment content, that offer is there too. What is the equivalent for you? For me, it's sharing that I have been working on this for 8 years, and the video that you're watching right now is all the advice I've gathered over the last year. I told you that right up front. For the last 8 years, I've been working on ways to tell my own story with video. It wasn't a gimmick, but it was there strategically because I want you to know that I've been working hard at this for exactly this purpose. So hopefully you make it to this point and continue watching. The fourth part of April's system is actually showing somebody what they're going to get. In these information-based interviews, that can be tough to do sometimes. And I'm not talking about showing features of your product. The demo speaks for itself. It's a demo. What most people are watching your short form content for is they want to check out a video that explains something going on in the industry, or you can show them the way that they write a better email, or you can show developers how they integrate with certain APIs or understand how AI is going to impact the segment that you're working in. These are types of things where if you can say, here, look behind the scenes, I'll show you my setup, or you maybe even seen videos on YouTube of, let me walk you through my house. What is the MTV cribs of your startup? What's your work setup? What types of tools do you use? These are the types of things that are really showing somebody what they're going to learn and understand from you as they watch your content. Having a strong closing is really 2 parts. Part 1 is let's make sure you remind us what you've taught us. And the second piece is closing really kind of abruptly. It helps the algorithm on YouTube to know that somebody finished watching your video. And so to end with, well, if you like this video, then get in touch, and here's my Twitter, and here's my phone number, and you can call me if you've got questions. Those offers are sometimes perfect call to actions, but if they're not succinct and not focused, it will muddy what you're asking the audience to do, but 2, it's also going to take you a long time to get through that. So tell us what you want us to know and end it right there. In a few minutes, you're actually going to get to see how I do this, and you can tell me if I did it right in the comments. Who's going to see this video? Not many people at first. Videos that you're making, especially when you're telling the B2B story about your startup, are not videos that are going to be widely distributed unless you're lucky or stupid. I don't mean that you're stupid. I mean that there are some stupid ways that you can get distribution. Doing really flashy things like being over vulnerable, sometimes that style will be seen by a lot of people, but if we're watching the vulnerability car wreck on the highway, or we're watching you do some extreme sport while you talk about the state of the industry, then we're actually watching something else. We're not connecting, and you're not creating a filter. And what I mean by creating a filter is that content filter is actually going to be one that only the most interested people are the ones that are going to come watch your video. And while that's a bad thing in entertainment, that can be a great thing in B2B, because that's going to mean the type of people that want to connect with you, the type of people that want to learn more from your point of view or about your company, are also going to be the people who made it through that filter, and they're the most qualified to have those conversations. You're starting to play a game that's going to be very hard to know the score. In entertainment, you have likes and subscribes, subs and shares, and that is the way you know that an entertainment YouTube video is taking off or people are noticing it's going viral. In B2B, you're probably not going to have that. The virality just won't exist if you're making videos for the right people and you're really kind of playing to the niche that's going to create the right relationships. So what I want to encourage you to do is to think about 2 things. 1, instead of thinking about how do I distribute this video as wide as possible, make it so the most people want to see it, think about how to create a video that speaks to the niche. So make content that builds connection, that's actually going to be connected to the people that you would like to have in your community, and the payoff will be there. We're going to talk about thumbnails again. I mentioned it in the intro section because your thumbnail needs to be consistent with the promise of your video, but thumbnails also a very important part of distribution for your content. The thumbnails will often be the first thing that pops up. And so you want to make sure your thumbnail is creating that same promise. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that the thumbnail is actually kind of exactly what they should expect to see, as opposed to blank background like you might have on a webinar, or a picture of you in your best and brightest out there skydiving. Really, you want to keep the promise that this video has. So being in the set that you're using is a way to get a nice, easy thumbnail and make sure the promise of your title is right there. So this video is actually about what's really hard and challenging about content. So the promise of our thumbnail might be in the picture that shows this is actually really hard. I promise you, if you made it to the end, you'd have my best advice, and here you go. It can be really hard and daunting to think about who it is you're making content for. But instead of thinking about who, think about when you want them to see that content. Let's say that you know in your industry, when someone is in market to buy your product, towards the end of the sales cycle, they're always checking references. They want a lot of feedback and social proof. Then it might make sense for you to focus your video effort on case studies. And this doesn't mean that you have to go out and do a whole separate video series interviewing other people who are using your product or buying your product, although you can definitely do that. You can also do a video just like this one, a talking head, where you look at the camera and you tell us the story about how Docker uses your product. Or you tell us the story of why Salesforce, who's been a customer of yours for years, is finally at the inflection point of that thing you do. These types of videos can be really influential because they're targeted to hit the right people at the right time. This doesn't mean that you have to even worry about building a big YouTube channel. Build a place for people to see those videos and then send them out when you know they're at that stage, or provide them to your sales team so they can use them as collateral content. Those videos do really well because they provide us with two things: a perspective that you can't find from just doing Google search, and also access to you, the CEO founder who's working in the space, who has the rich history you do to be able to be building out your product. Another idea would be, maybe you know that you need to create awareness. If you're creating awareness, you're at the very beginning of the sales cycle and you want to just create a lot of awareness about a particular problem. I see this all the time on LinkedIn, and it is working. I saw one today in fintech where the founder was posting very specifically about a very niche little fintech issue, and the people who are noticing, the people who are engaging, are people who understand that space, and those are the people that this founder wants to engage with. If you think about when you want someone to see your videos instead of just who you'd like to be watching the videos, then you're going to be a lot further along than you think. That's all to say that we know the hardest part is actually how you show up. And if you show up authentically and connect with us personally, like we're right there in the room with you, the community that you build is going to be worth it. And remember to make videos that have great intros, that have thumbnails that match and keep the promise, that tell good stories, that have a realistic distribution plan, that creates a binge-worthy content bank, and of course, an abrupt ending.